Okay, I'm about to get started here. Couple minutes early. Looks like we've got a few people here already. Good morning, Joanne and Beverly and Brigitte. Welcome, ladies. Welcome, crafters, all crafters. I'm just finishing setting up all of my settings. Hopefully everything sounds good. You can hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay. We've got just about a minute until we officially start. But it's so good to have you all here. Looks like you can hear me great. All right, 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock my time, 8 o'clock Pacific time. Okay, well, welcome to my craft room, everybody. I had a lot of people ask to see my craft room a little more, so for a few minutes, or a few seconds really, you can get a chance to look at this. This is where I work. This is my office. So I've got my computer here on the left where I do most of my digital designing. In the back, this is my craft area, craft room with all of my Queen & Company loveliness everywhere. My dies on the wall. I've got another table over here now that gives me a little more space to spread out. And you don't get to see the back wall because that's my photography setup area, and quite frankly, it's a huge mess. But welcome, everybody. Let me transition you over to my desk. I've got tons of things to share with you today, and I'm so glad you're here. Let's see. Oh, wrong one. Sorry. To my desk. There we go. Okay. So I can see your comments. If you saw in the background, I have an iPad going so I can say hello to everybody and read what you're saying as we go along. But let me introduce you to die cutting guide number 5. Now, some of you have been with Queen & Company a long time and you've seen these before and you are big fans and have done them several times and you know how this works. So hopefully those of you who are in that category are just hanging out today and enjoying crafting along with me. But we are going to go kind of slow and steady and have fun actually creating. This is a workshop, not just a demo. We're actually going to do the work today. And I'm going to explain for those of you that might be new or maybe have seen them but not really understood how they work before, exactly what a die cutting guide is and how to use it. But before we go right into that, I do have a couple of housekeeping items. One of which is that it's World Card Making Day, and I am so excited to have you guys with us. It's a big party in our Facebook group. It's a day that we look forward to all year long. And one of the fun things about having these events is that we get to do some giveaways. So one of the many giveaways that's happening today is that during the different broadcasts, so Donna did one last night, we've got mine right now, we've got Marianne's coming up in a couple hours, we get to give away a gift card to anyone who leaves a comment. So please do make sure and comment. We do read them, we do go through them all, and we do get to pick winners. This time one random winner from a comment left on today's workshop. I will get to choose randomly a comment to give away a gift card to, which will be announced on Tuesday. So even if you are watching the replay later, you get a chance to win. And I know quite a few of you did some shopping last night. I think you might have even crashed our cart or our store for a little while. Hopefully, no one had too much trouble ordering. But we do have some amazing specials this weekend that I am going to mention. And the first is the boot. Isn't that cute? Now, those of you who don't know, I am in Texas. So when Wendy brought this out and told me what our one of our first freebies was going to be today, I was so excited. The cozy is adorable. It can hold your water bottle. It can hold onto your soda can. It can keep your craft table looking extra cute while you are working, if you are brave enough to put a drink in your crafting area. Mine gets water because I am not brave enough to do something besides water. But it's adorable, and it is a free with $50 purchase. And yes, you can still use rewards if you are one of our Queen & Company rewards members and still get the cozy with your order. There's additional levels, an embellishment trunk full of amazing embellishments that you can get free with a $100 order, and this amazing Christmas embellishment bundle. I go through embellishments like water. I'm constantly running out because I use them a lot. I like to embellish my cards and my projects. So if you need new Christmas crafting embellishments, free with a $125 order is the Christmas set. Now, you cannot use rewards to get the two upper level gifts, only with the boot, although they are stackable. So if you spend $125 or more, you do get all three if you're not using rewards. Okay, housekeeping items out of the way. Oh, and one more thing. If you are looking for the guide, if you want to print it out and go along with me, I printed out the URL that will take you right to the files because it's sometimes hard to help you see that in our Facebook group called Queen and Company Royalty. You can see right here, this is our Facebook group. If you're in there, then you can scroll through the tabs to the file section, or you could just type this directly into your browser. And if you are in our Facebook group, it will take you right to the files. And right at the top of the files is die cutting guide number 5. Okay. Let me make sure I didn't miss any comments that I need to answer questions. Oh my goodness, there are so many of you here. Welcome, ladies. Oh, I'm so glad you guys like the guides. Okay. Jill, you cut out your die cuts at 5 a.m.? I wasn't even up at 5 a.m. Well, happy World Card Making Day, everybody. Oh, yes. The boot is so cute. Okay, I'm going to have a hard time keeping up with your comments, but I'm going to do my best. I hope you guys are loving the new products that are coming out. We're going to talk about just a few of them in class today. One of them is I am going to be going through and using these, some of our new backdrop dies, which cuts the stitch marks that we love on our dies into your background. And I'm going to be using those with the die cutting guides today. So you'll see that. That's one of the ones I'm going to feature today. I'm also going to be featuring the absolutely adorable, let me grab it right here, Creepy Crew kit that just came out, what, week and a half, 2 weeks ago? This is our latest Halloween kit, and it is a kit I have chosen to use today. If you've seen the kit before, you probably recognize the papers that I have down here already picked out. But I'm going to be making 7 cards today from our new die cutting guide featuring this kit. It's one of my favorites, probably because I just love our little Igor and I love our little witch's feet sticking out of the cauldron. You know, we had a kit many, many years ago before I started designing the kit that had a cauldron, but it didn't have the handles and it didn't have the stitch marks and things touches that were important to me after I became Queen and Company's lead designer. So we got a chance to go through and revamp that shape, make it as cute as possible, give you your little bubbles coming out, give you the feet as an option. Same thing, candy corn. We've got an adorable candy corn that is sectioned, unlike the last one. So an updated version with all new fun shapes as well as some revamped classics. You gotta love our Wolfman here. So many fun things for Halloween. So that's what I'm using today. Hopefully, those of you who are new know that if you look at the guide, this guide works just like all of our other guides with any 6x6 paper pad that you have on hand. I love using the Queen and Company's because our prints are designed with card making in mind, not necessarily scrapbooking. So the prints are small. They're meant to showcase the smaller die cuts that you use when card making. They, of course, also coordinate. So all of the colors go together, all of the patterns go together. And you can see, if let me move my Cuttlebug out of the way here a little bit, that no matter how I were to stack or layer my papers, they're all going to look good near each other. So if you want to grab the die cutting guide and you're going to grab 6 papers, the die cutting guide walks you through what kinds. We recommend, although of course you feel free to break the rules, raise your hand if you are a rule breaker or give me a thumbs up if you're a rule breaker, and you do your own thing. But we recommend a striped paper. So you can see I've got that here. We recommend some sort of multicolor paper that's going to give you a variety of different colors. I've chosen actually a plaid for this one. And then we recommend a dot paper. Here I've got my dot paper. Almost all of our paper pads do have the stripes and dots. And then it also recommends that you pick out 3 tone-on-tone or solid papers that are going to coordinate with the colors in the multicolored papers that you have chosen. So you can see that mine do. If you stay within any Queen and Company paper pad, you shouldn't have too much trouble finding all of that because I put that into every paper pad that we design here. The other thing you're going to need is some white cardstock. Obviously, you're going to need your card bases. You need 7. This die cutting guide makes 7 cards using those 6 papers. And then you're also going to need some plain white cardstock because we are going to cut some shapes out of the white cardstock. Now, I learned in the past that most of you said, hey, I have, a Cuttlebug or a Big Shot. I need papers that will fit through the 6-inch opening in my Cuttlebug or Big Shot or whatever die cut machine you have. So I went through and showed you how you can get your 8.5 by 11 plain white cardstock, cut it down and to a size that fits in your die cut machine. And I created the die guide this time to feature those smaller papers so that no one has to struggle figuring out how to cut out their white papers, trying to make it as easy as possible. Okay, so here is what we are going to attempt to create here with the die cutting guide, and that is to use our foundation dies. And if you're new, let me show you foundation dies that we're using today. Our foundation dies come in sets that are numbered. We have quite a few and more on the way, but I have chosen 4 today, and we're going to stick to just those 4 to make it easier to keep track of what we're using and maybe what you have on hand. Not everyone, of course, has every set, but we are using 6. Not every shape from 6, but we are using 6. We are using 19, and we are using 20, and we are using 21. And foundation dies are amazing because they give you cutouts that are just right for card making, and you get a huge value because you get a huge number of dies that can be mixed and matched and coordinated with all of our other foundation dies to make your card making so much easier. And of course, you get the beautiful stitch marks around every piece so that you can have that little extra bit of texture that we are big fans of here at Queen & Company. So those are the die foundation die sets we're using today. And if you look over here, you can kind of see I have laid out some of mine, already gathered the shapes that we will need, and I've put them out by set. So let me bring them a little closer to try to make it a little easier as we go along here. But we're going to get started with our striped paper today. So I am going to take my sandwich I'm using my Cuttlebug today. Make myself some room. And I'm going to scroll through while I clean up for just a second and make some room. I'm going to scroll through your comments for a minute. Oh, big fans of the foundation die. It's wonderful. Okay. Another question about how to get the die guide. Let me put this out for a second while I make some room. There is the address. Facebook.com/group/Queen&Co Royalty/files. If you go there, you can download in PDF form, perfect for printing, the entire die guide. Okay. So, I forgot to mention too that one other housekeeping item is that I have a sneak peek to share towards the end of our time together today. I know Donna showed you the first sneak peek of our Christmas kit last night, and I have another one to show you, and so does Marianne. Okay, I'm going to set this right here while I get ready to lay things out. So, as shown in the die guide, we're going to start with some rectangles from 20, and things are going to be a little tight. You can do this all in one pass, which is what I'm going to attempt to do. And I am using both a magnetic mat in my sandwich as well as some low tack tape, repositionable tape, to help me hold my dies in place. You don't have to do it that way. There's plenty of other ways to be able to cut your dies out, including not doing them necessarily all at once. But that's what I'm doing today. And I know some of you have been amazing at taking like tape or I think I saw somebody use Glad Press and Peel one time. Let's see, 19. That one looks a little big. Some of the dies in 19 are very similar. So I'm going to be looking at the comparison between the shapes to be able to figure out which of the banners they are. Make sure I cut the right one. Although with the banners, it doesn't matter too much if you get it wrong, just as long as it fits in the paper. But I can see that 21 and 19 should look about like that. And that's how I'm deciding which banner die to use. I'll try next time to actually indicate maybe small, medium, and large, since most of our banner sets are in 3s, and that might make it easier next time. I keep trying to improve the die cutting guides every time I use them, or every time I create a new one. That's what I mean to say. All right, and from 20, where is my little side piece here? How am I doing? Okay, from 20, from 19, 19, 21, 20, 21 down here, and then you can see I've got a repeating shape. This little I don't know what the right word is, tiny little rectangle, little border piece is going to be repeated down here towards the bottom. So I'm going to make sure I slide these all the way to the top of my paper so that I will have room, and a little bit of repositionable tape. This tape just came from Amazon. I've had it a long time, so I can't tell you exactly what brand it is. But as you can see, there's a lot on the roll and it lasts a long time. I've had it probably 3 or 4 years and it's still going strong. Alrighty. That should hold things through pretty well, hopefully. And I'm going to run it through my die cut machine and see how we do. Die cut machines are so noisy, but these plates I've been using now, you can see how yucky and kind of gross they are. Probably about 4 years old, and I probably make 200 or 300 cards a year. And I'm still using these same plates because they still work great. So no reason to replace them, but they used to crack and moan a lot. Now I think they've been cut into so many times that they don't really make too much noise anymore. All right, I'm going to try to put these back in the categories they came from to make this simpler and easier. All right, let's see here. Janet, or June, you say you almost chose Creepy Crew. It's a great kit to use, but looks like you've got, oh, Hocus Pocus. You're still doing Halloween. That sounds great. It's definitely still Halloween crafting time at my house. I'm just barely catching up. The cards that I'm making today, let's see, 21, are going to be going to my son's Special Olympics team. I've got a son who's a junior in high school who has autism, and he has some amazing and wonderful friends that are currently doing bowling and volleyball, and they're just about to go to state meet in swimming, and they are all big fans of Halloween, and I think that these cards will be a fun way to, they're going to have the state meet right near Halloween, so I'll give them to him as a little send off and good luck and happy Halloween kind of all in one for this group of wonderful, amazing individuals that we are very privileged to have in our lives. Okay, so that was the first set of dies, all done. Got my stripes finished. Let's move on to this paper here, which is in the guide. It's a flowery paper, but I am going to be using my plaid paper for that. There is that right there. Let's see, Valerie, you say you need a first anniversary card. Oh, congratulations. I don't know who is on their first anniversary in your life, but that is exciting. I hope they've had a good first year of marriage. All right, so from 19, I need my large rectangle. And from 20, gonna need the small, oh, I forgot to cut the other border, didn't I? Remember how I told you we're gonna use that twice? Well, I don't know if I should go back to that. Yeah, let's go back so I don't forget. Let me pull that paper back up. That's the part I forget to do when I'm going live, is to actually recut those pieces that get repeated. So let me tape this guy down. You can see there's just enough room for him to fit. And you can see that we've maximized our spaces pretty well here. Used up the vast majority of that paper, so much so that I didn't even notice I'd missed one. Let me go back and get that one cut so I actually finished the stripe paper. Any of you out there still using a Cuttlebug? I have a smaller Big Shot. I have the larger Big Shot Plus, but for some reason I just can't stop using my wonderful little Cuttlebug. It just goes and goes and goes, and I worry about it breaking on me, but so far so good. Okay, there we go. That's better. More skeleton. You might have been able to even grab another one out of the side there. Maybe. Pretty tight. But maybe if you wanted to even maximize your scraps and have a little extra anyhow. Okay, now back to this paper. All right. 19 in the corner. And 20 right here. Kelly says you still use your Cuttlebug. Fabulous. Other people have got, let's see, Spellbinders. Dee, are you working on Thanksgiving cards? Let's see. And Brigitte, how do I decide which dies to make next? That's a good question. A lot of it comes down to just when I am crafting, having the thought, oh, I wish I had, and then I'm lucky enough to be in a position where I work at a job where, guess what? I can, like, you know what? Let's make that. So a lot of times it comes down to when I'm actually making something, and I'll be like looking for a foundation die, and I'm like, oh, I don't have a rectangle in that size. I really ought to look for that. And when I don't have what I need, I just kind of put it down as a future suggestion. Okay, let's see. This banner piece is a little tight down here, but it works. And then we've got this fun little arrow piece today. We're going to cut a few of those out for one of our sketches. And our hexagon is also another fun little piece today. But yeah, so I sit down and I keep a I keep a log of all the different ideas that I have while making cards that I wish, of shapes that I wish that I had. And those typically become the next set of foundation dies. Now, I don't do it alone, though. You know who is also really great at providing suggestions for foundation dies is Marianne. And I think that her process is similar, that she works on samples for us and says, ooh, if we had this, then I could do that. And so she'll send me a little text with a suggestion, and it often works its way into the next set of foundation dies as well. And foundation dies, I don't know. I have electronic cutting machines. I even have a laser cutter. But there's something about the foundation dies that I can look at and say, look, these are not going to stop working on me. There's no software update that will need to keep them valid. If the electricity or power goes out, I can still use them. I can pass them down to my grandkids if I need to, because they just keep working. You know, I've used some of my dies. Let's see, I got them all. Yep, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've used some of my dies, especially like the base rectangle, the A2 rectangle in foundation set 8. I don't know, maybe 1,000 times. Still works great, no problem. I'm thinking it will work great for a very long time. That's one of the things I love about foundation dies as opposed to electronic stuff, which I have and I use, but it's special to have something that will always work. In today's world, it seems like that is rarer and rarer. All right, 21. Okay, let's see how plaid papers came out. You can see this low-tack tape really releases very well. Doesn't pull up the papers or rip them at all, but it does do a great job. Look at that, holding my dies in place. So is there anybody in the chat today that actually has done this before, where you keep all of your dies with like a Glad press and seal or tape or whatever, and then you lay them back down after you cut them one time, and you can just put them right back down again and cut a whole nother piece of paper without having to rearrange them? I know I've seen that before. Anybody at complete pro level on this yet? You can see I've been trying to save and reuse my tape, but I forget to when I'm talking. Let's see, 19. Let's see. Oh, engraving tools. You're discussing engraving tools, some of you. Yes, you can see the numbers on mine. I started with Sharpies, but sometimes the Sharpie rubs off. And so later on, I did do the same as Donna and many others. Grabbed a little engraving tool to get the numbers on there. It makes it so much easier to do the die guides or any of our sketches. This is my tool. Came from the hardware store. That's the little blade or little tip on it that I use. Kind of like handwriting, which I don't like my handwriting, but with a little number, just to be functional, works out pretty well. Okay, 6s and 20s. All right, and our last little banner piece here. Okay, D, you keep them taped? Good job, D. I am impressed. I am not pro level at that. Maybe if I use a better tape. You have a tape you recommend, D? Who else says they do that? Marie? June, you tried it with big wide temporary tape. Okay, that's a good thought. I hadn't thought about that. Maybe like a blue painter's tape, maybe? Maybe I will attempt that at some time, because it would be nice to be able to cut out my dies just like this with my Halloween papers, but then grab my other paper pad and work on Christmas, or just to have some sympathy on hand or thinking of you. All of that would be really, really smart, and I should do that someday. I think my good crafty friend Tiffany is on. Are you game? Maybe we should try it, Tiffany. Let's see. 19. And we need our little tiny 20 again. You can see this piece is going to get a lot of use today. You can see the magnetic mat I've got under here really helps hold things still. Part of the reason I haven't moved over to my Big Shot a little bit more is because their magnetic mats work a little differently. They've got individual magnets in the mats, so the dies tend to jump around a little bit more. This one is just one solid magnetic piece underneath my cutting plate. And boy, does it work well at keeping things in line and not jumping around as much. They jump a little bit, but not as much as my Big Shot ones. And I haven't tried taking this and putting it underneath my Big Shot. Maybe I could make a sandwich that would make that work. But I haven't gotten there yet. Let's see, is this the right one? 21? Nope, that's definitely too big. I think that's it. So you can see how, if you don't know which die to use, you can see I reached for this one first, but it won't fit. So it's an easy way to tell which die you're going to need. And you know, some papers you have to be a little more precise about than others. You can see this dot paper, if it's not straight, it's going to show up a lot more visible than, like, for example, the diagonal stripes. I like diagonal stripes. First of all, because it doesn't matter as much, especially with the die cutting guides, what orientation they are, because whether they're vertical or horizontal, you're going to have the same effect. Whereas if you're doing just plain, like say vertical stripes, you're going to have a little less, you have to pay a little more attention to how you lay out your dies and cut them, because they may come in an orientation that you don't really want. But also those vertical stripes are just very forgiving. They make it very easy to, let's see, I want to get that just straight. They make it very easy to not have to be quite as precise. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Through the machine, our dots go. Okay. Magic mat with the Big Shot. I have one of those too. Linda, you've done that before with the vertical stripes? Yeah. It can be a challenge for sure. But sometimes vertical is all you have. You can make it work. Or you can reach out and use 2 pieces of paper. I know that goes against every principle of the die cutting guides. But if we, let's see, 21. But if you need to, you really can cut out from a second piece of paper. And you might not maximize things as much. Remind me to actually reuse my tape pieces. That's why I'm putting them here. Where is this? I'm putting this where I can't get to it. So I'll remember to reuse them. Trying to reduce waste here, not to create more. Okay, 19. Here. So yeah, you really can adjust these die guides as needed. You don't have to do them exactly as they are. I know some of you probably do a lot of adjusting. Anyone out there who does quite a bit of adjusting just to make them work, or do you guys tend to use them more as is? Those of you that are pros at this, done it a bunch before. I have a magic mat, but I have to be careful because sometimes I have felt like it puts a lot of resistance going through my Cuttlebug, and it's probably just because it's a Cuttlebug. I need to try it on the Big Shot. I bet I would love that even more on the Big Shot. So ta-da! Look at how well we're doing at maximizing our cutting. So fun. Linda, sometimes you have to adjust. Yep. And a lot of that depends too on what kit you're going to use it with. Some of the shapes, you know, that we're going to use to be able to host our focal points might not be the right size for what you have in mind. So sometimes a little bit of adjusting is needed. Hopefully not too much. All right. Halfway done with our pattern paper cutting. Let's see if I can speed this up a little bit. All right. 19. Yesterday, I actually, believe it or not, did cut these out already. So this is my second time cutting these out. Because of course we had to go through and make sure there were no errors. And it's a good thing because there was some. I had a couple of mislabeled dies and I had to go through and add. And then even as I was finishing putting them together and publishing the files, I realized that I actually gave you a bonus piece. Actually, I think it's this one on our green paper. I tell you to cut this twice, and I didn't actually use it in all of the sketches. So even if you do it now, it's not completely error-free, but I think you'll still forgive me. If not, you can get a refund for this workshop by emailing nobody, because you didn't pay anything. But if you don't mind, you will have an extra bonus die or die cut that you can hold on to and save for later, or maybe you'll find a way to work it into your adjusted sketches for your cards. All right, you can see for this one, we're going to be a little bit clever with the way we lay this out. We are going to have die 21, the smallest banner die, is going to go right in the middle of that die cut, because that rectangle, the middle of the rectangle, is not going to show. I'm going to move it more to the edge here. And no one will know that we cut out from the middle of our die, of our paper there, once we actually get it on the card. All right, 19, and our little, you can see this one. Hopefully your paper doesn't matter too much with the orientation of this one because we're really squeezing it in there. Mine doesn't, as you can see. And then from 20, our little, this is the smallest fat little sideways cut banner piece there. Okay. You can see they get in pretty tight on this one. Look, reusing. So I'm going to make sure I hold that one down in the middle. Okay. All your comments are just flying along. Who is actually crafting today? Give me a thumbs up if you are actually crafting today. Or if you're just watching, that's totally fine. Hopefully that means you'll get a chance to go through and craft later. After I'm done cutting these out, I am going to stay on for a little while. I have a bunch of questions that people asked, and I printed them out. I read them all, and I printed them out. Oh, I can't show that. That's our sneak peek for later. But I am going to go through, and I'll pull my camera down, and we'll do a little tour of some of the things you guys asked about in my craft room, things that I do to make crafty life easier. And so if you are interested in that, be sure to stay on for a little bit and we'll just chat and talk, and I'll be able to keep up with your comments a little better, since I won't be just working and trying to read them at the same time. All right. I think that'll work. Send orange through. Also, if you think of additional questions, let's see, sewing. Sandy is sewing. Oh, did you see? Okay. I have a little bit of an ADD personality when I'm, totally hit my shopping cart back there, when I'm crafting. Did you see this? On my chair. This is my mom's Halloween quilt. My mom quilts. She does amazing stuff, and I pulled out her Halloween stuff recently. So, soft spot in my heart for sewing. For those of you who are doing that while watching today, you have to tell us what kind of project you're working on. I'm lucky enough to know a couple of very amazing quilters that sometimes make me want to give up my paper for fabric. Any of you out there quilters, you do both hobbies? Greta Hammond. Oh, is Greta on today? Hi, Greta. Well, somebody's at least replying about Greta. Let's see, 21. Quilting too. Sandy is quilting too. Good. Yeah, my mom, she can coordinate quilting fabric colors the way I do it with paper. Definitely lucky to have inherited a little bit of her eye for color and design in my life, for sure. And quilt fabric is so fun and so beautiful. My mom frequently will come over and I'll show her what I've been designing, and she's like, I want that in fabric, which would be fun, but I don't know if I would have the time to do it. Sewing is fabulous, but it takes me longer than card making, and card making already takes me a while. I saw that was one of the questions that you guys asked when I was discussing what we should do together. And who was it? Wendy, was it you who asked? Somebody asked how long it takes me to make a card. Oh, that one was so close to the edge, it didn't quite cut all the way through. But I'll grab my scissors, and it's just a little tiny straight cut, and it won't matter. There we go. It's free. But how long does it take me to make a card? Well, forever would be the answer. I am not a fast crafter. Matter of fact, that's part of the reason that I love the die cutting guides so much, is because they help me speed up and get a lot done all at once. It isn't just because we love you, although we do here at Queen Company love all of you, but they really help me go a lot faster, because an average card for me probably takes me 2 to 3 hours to make, partially because I love layers and I love embellishments, and I love to over the top do things. I like a lot on my cards, and so the level of detail that I like to put into them, that I find fun, is wonderful, except for the fact that it takes me a while, and I change my mind a lot too. Anybody else out there change their mind a lot when you're crafting? You can give me a thumbs up if you do, because that is me to a T. You can see this paper is not quite as packed as some of the others, but we just didn't need to pack it in as tight. Let's see. Oh, 21, that's what I'm looking for. Let's see, which one are you? You this one? Nope, too small. There we go, 21. Some of you are fast. Sometimes I see how many cards you guys passed in our royalty group, and I am just completely blown away. I don't know how you do it. It's wonderful. Someday I will inherit that skill. Or develop it, maybe. Not inherit. Again, we're maximizing our space by putting a die cut within a die cut. And like I said, I'm learning with every die cut I put together. I'm learning that although we do want them in there tight, we don't want them in there so tight that they can't be cut all at once. Some of the die cuts, they're in there so tight that if you cut them all at once, the little edges of the dies kind of prevent you from getting them on there all at once, at least not easily. So this one, I did try to give you a little more gray space between most of your dies, so that even though we're going to use up those papers quite well, we're also not going to have a stressful time doing that. Karen, you do it? You cut dies 2 or 3 times in different colors to get the right combo? Oh, amen. Amen. We are soul sisters. Yes, I will cut things multiple times until I get it right. And then I have a ton of scraps to use up on other projects, which I sometimes do and sometimes don't. Sometimes I sit with my kits for quite a while waiting for that moment. But then again, sometimes I'm in a hurry to get a project done quickly for, like, say, you know, I need a birthday card and I got to do it before I run out the door. I can go to that kit, pull out all my unwanted scraps that were, you know, not useful at that time, but then pull them all out and rearrange them and find something wonderful with those scraps. So they are helpful to have on hand, and they do tend to make a difference eventually when I'm in those kind of needs. Okay. All right. One more paper. Thanks for sticking with me so long, you guys. It's lovely to actually have people to talk to while I'm working. Most of the time, it is just me, myself, and I in my craft room. And the silence can be fun and nice, or I've usually got some sort of program on in the background, but it's way more fun to have people to actually talk to. So, okay, last paper is my green paper here. And you can kind of see that I kind of stuck with very similar things from the die guide. A greens, a gray, magenta to orange. I didn't actually vary that much. And yet the look, when we come to putting these all together, see, this is how it looks with these are our branded Queen & Company colors, right? That all of our sketches are designed in. But it's amazing how just a little tweak of the papers gives you this totally amazing different look, even though the designs are the same. And we're almost to that point of showing you. All right, let's pull our rectangles from 19 and from 20. Some of these I really love from 20 there. Well, actually 19 is the same too. These are the exact width or length of an A2 card. Super handy. Use them all the time. All right. One more time for our little tiny arrow here. Oh, you know what? Can you see how when I put the arrow there, I can see, wait, the gap is big. It's because I grabbed the wrong one from 19. 19 actually has more than one shape that will fit directly across an A2 card. So we'll get our spacing looking right here by adjusting which die we've got. Eventually I would have realized it too, because then all these other dies would not have fit. Okay, and our little border piece and our 2 scalloped borders. I also like these all the way across an A2 card, right? From 21 and 19, our fat scallops and our skinny scallops. Love, love, love them. I guess technically they should go in this order. We're sticking with the dies. All right. And let's see, from 19, we've got kind of our little, almost like a pocket piece. And I'm going to have to do some scooting to get everything to fit here. 19. Oh, and look, I did it again. 20. This is why it's not fitting. More than once. 20. Skinnier one. Maybe some of you called me out on that. I should read your comments. Probably could have saved me some heartache. Thankfully, I didn't cut it yet. When I was cutting it out to test it, I did do that yesterday. Just one time. Okay. And 19. Now, this is where I told you before that the die guide, it has it on here twice, 19. But once you actually assemble all the sketches, you'll see that we actually only use it one time. So you don't have to, unless you want to have an extra piece, actually cut out that little number 19 more than once. Since I'm finally going to be moving on to other things, I'm going to not do it today. Okay, I can read your comments while I tape these down here. Pam, you could talk to yourself. Well, now I feel better, because once in a while I do too. In fact, when I was testing the die guide yesterday, I was doing quite a bit of talking to myself. I've been working on that die guide for almost a week, and I was still having problems getting it to work out completely. The die guides are really fun to use, but let me tell you, they are not as fun to make. They are a ton of work. It is difficult to figure out how to lay out all of the pieces in a way where we're really maximizing our paper and cutting as much as possible from them and making sure that we're making well-designed cards out of what we make. And then I especially make it complicated when I limit myself to a certain number of foundation dies. You know, if I were to pull from all of our 20, what do we have now? 24 sets that have been released, or if you count some of our in-between ones like Love or the new Flowers one that just came out, we have a lot of sets. So if I were to use from any of them, like some of our first die guides, it's a little easier. But then it's a lot more complicated to pull all the dies out and to put them back. Plus it's expensive. You know, if you don't have all of our foundation dies, it's nice to know that you can order just a few sets and be able to make cards over and over again. I was actually talking to my husband about the math behind this, behind using a die guide. I'm like, you could buy, you know, 3 or 4 foundation sets, use a die guide, and just buy like a kit. And that would seem like an expensive upfront investment until you start making cards. Because if you go through and buy a kit and buy 3 or 4 sets of foundation dies and make a bunch of cards, you could probably get something like maybe 21 cards out of this particular kit that I've got right now. Let's see, 21. But then after you've made your cards, you still have the foundation dies and you still have the die guide. And like I told you earlier, your foundation dies are going to last forever. You also still have the stamps and stuff in the kit that you bought. And with the addition of an extra paper pad and maybe some extra toppings, or skip the toppings if you're just going to make plain cards and not shaker cards, now you're going to make another set of cards, or you're going to transition to a different kit. And now the cost of your individual cards has gone down to like $3 a piece. And that's only because you've done the die guide twice. Suppose you make, you know, 5 or 6 or 7 sets of cards with the die guide. Now all of a sudden you've got your cost, your expense of making handmade, gorgeous cards, shaker cards or otherwise, down to probably less than $1 a piece. And if you look at what they charge, you know, for a Hallmark card without any embellishments, that is a huge bargain. So I love that the investment in these dies can make such a difference down the road in helping you really maximize your budget as well as your paper and your time. Die guides and foundation dies for the win, right? Okay, pattern paper is all cut. Now we just need to cut our white cardstock, which, as you can see, because they're big pieces, there's not a lot involved there. You can see I wasn't able to maximize completely your white cardstock, but I hope you'll forgive me for that, because it's white cardstock's much cheaper and easier to get a hold of. And I had some cut, but obviously I lost it when I was getting ready today. I'm going to cut some other ones. And you'll see how by using the 5.5, if you look at the die guide, the first page, it tells you can cut it right down to 5.5 by 8, because most of our die cut, I lost page 1. Oh, here it is. Most of our smaller die cut machines have an opening for between 5.5 to 6 inches, or like my opening is about 6 inches on my Cuttlebug, but my plates are just under 6 inches. So 5.5 is half of an 8.5 by 11 sheet, and you can trim it down to 8 if you want. I'm just going to leave it 8.5 and let part of it hang off. Up to you. But here is my caterpillar. Now I've got my white cardstock. After we start assembling some of these cards, I'll show you how I create the sketches. I actually have something really, really fun that I think you will like that shows you how I do the sketches. Not necessarily for die guides. Die guides are a different process. But for our monthly sketches that we put out for our sketch contest every year, okay, or every month, I have a fun process for that. Okay, let's see here. Number 6. And our great big fun circles around the edges giant circle. Number 20. Let's see, I'm going to have to orientate it like this because my brain doesn't work doing a live broadcast and doing things sideways at the same time. Okay, number 19. And these banner plate pieces, you know, they're really up to you. These are for you to stamp on. And so they really are meant to coordinate with whatever stamp set you're using. You may cut a bigger or smaller one depending on what your needs are for your sentiments. So I do recommend that you go through and look at those first and then make a decision about what you want to stamp. I've made recommendations for you based on the sketches, but that's going to be one you're really going to want to customize. And you can see that from 21, we've got this fun, great big one. One of our cards is a vertical, or excuse me, or horizontal as opposed to vertical. And it has room for a great big sentiment along the bottom there. And I'm going to scoot this forward just to make sure everything fits good. And we'll cut. And you can see I didn't cut off the end of my paper. I'm just going to let it hang out a little easier. Oh, my dies are so close to the edge that it has trouble getting started sometimes. Oh, and I move my mat. There we go. We'll just turn it around and send it through. You can hear that sometimes when I push my card back, it's hitting my little Queen & Company shopping carts. I have all kinds of my fun, favorite little previous Queen & Company swag on my desk. So if you're hearing that sound occasionally, that's what I'm hitting back there. Okay, let's make a pile of the white. All right, and I'm going to get my little tool out. We'll finish poking the rest of these little buggers out because they're loose, but they're going to be fun. But we'll do that in a little bit. We'll put that aside. And that aside. Okay. Oh, I did it again. Tiny bit that didn't cut all the way through. I will just rip it for today because just need to get it done. But I would normally send that back through my die cut machine one more time to cut that little lower edge. And you can see we did a pretty good job mixing these in our space. My plates are so dirty. I need to clean them. I got my paper a little dirty. Thankfully, I'm not using that piece. All right. One more. Actually, two more. Get our little dots. That die is fun, but it does create a bit of a mess, all those little dots. There we go. And let's see. Number 20. Make sure I get the right one. It is the fatter of the two. Okay. And then from 19, same thing. The larger. And then our great big circle from 6. Down here. And I'm going to pull those up a little closer to the edge so that they'll go through the machine. And hopefully, yeah, I think we're close enough to the edge that 6 is still going to cut. Okay, and then the little banner piece. 19, okay. And then after this, just 2 more die cuts and we'll be there. So do you say you use a small lint roller for the little dots? Yep, I've got one of those too. Although honestly, my favorite is probably my little toothbrush or just grabbing a piece of blue painter's tape and sticking that down on there. Or I'll bet this same, I've never tried it, but I'll bet that same low tack tape would work well for that. Okay, and I'm going to hold on to this because we need a second one of these. And then one more large circle along with this scallop circle, and we can do the magic part. The magic part is my favorite part of using the die guides. When you see all of that hard work you did and all of your die cutting pay off. And everything starts to come together. Okay. Roll this through. Things on a plate. Okay. All right, last 2. Okay. And you can see I'm talking too much. That's why maybe it's good if I don't have people over here all the time to talk to me while I craft, because I do lose track of things. Okay. There we go. All pieces done. I'm going to move my die cut machine out of the way. And let's see the magic as these come together now into actual cards. Okay. So like I told you earlier, for my card fronts, I went through and I cut out from our new backdrop dies a whole bunch of these pretty card fronts. And I do have a bunch of card bases that I'll glue them to later. But right now, let's just do the magic of getting everything assembled. This is my little die cutter, but I have so many dies, it's going to get overwhelmed. So I meant to put those on there and hold on to the small ones, but obviously that didn't happen. Okay, so to do this next step, Again, if any of you are joining us late too, let me put this out there. This is where you go to get the die guide. It is totally free. You can go download it and print it out and add it to your collection. I have a whole binder where I keep mine in to make it easy. That's where you go to get the die guide, in case you're new and didn't catch the beginning of the video. Okay. All my little dots everywhere. Let's see. Do lines. So I've I've got my sketches here. I'm going to lay out my 7 card bases. Let's see, these are Halloween. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do a bunch of those. So there are 6 background dies or backdrop dies, and I only grabbed 3 of them for this since I thought that matched the Halloween the best. Okay. All right. And you can see they do curl a little when you cut them, but you can uncurl them right back. Okay. So sketch number 1 from our polka dot paper. We've got that from our gray paper, a rectangle. And like I told you, that little piece in the middle is going to get totally hidden. No one will know what we did there. From our white papers, there is our little cover piece there. And then down here, our little scalloped edge along the bottom. Okay. Very cute. And then we need a place for a sentiment. And I think that is going to be this skinny one right here, because it'll fit there and not cover up too much of the polka dot paper. All right. Sketch number 1. Ready to be put together. All right. And now you can see that I used a piece of white paper to go underneath the striped paper. It's just to give a little more balance to this particular sketch. I felt like it was a little off balance. So by embossing or die cutting, or, you know, like with this, with the stitch marks, you get a little bit more, what's the right word? Texture. That's what I'm looking for. Texture, to be able to have this pop and feel a little more balanced with the whole weight. This large rectangle with all of these, you know, arrows on the side is, to me, visually weighty. And so to have that extra bit of support for our striped paper makes it feel less off balance to me. Is that a weird thing to say about cards? But that is how my brain works. Balance is important as I'm working on a card so that the eye flows across it in a pleasant way. It's probably a little far away for you to see right now, but as if I were to take a photo of it, you'd be able to see the different layers and help get that extra feeling of support for the large amount of papers that are going to go on the left side of this card. So speaking of, there is that. And now we pull out all of our fun little arrows that we cut out earlier. And you know, this is one of those situations too, where Queen & Company papers are double-sided. So if you're at the point where you're like, I don't know if I like the way that particular one looks, or if I wanted to use something different here. Let's see, that one's at the bottom. You can try flipping them over and seeing if the opposite color is what you're looking for, if that'll give you the look that you are hoping for, or just a look that coordinates better for what you had in mind. Okay, there you are hiding. All right. And then we're going to have a sentiment strip that will go at the bottom. I think that is this one. There we go. That one's ready. All right, 3rd card. Stripe paper at the top, and then a border piece and our scalloped border. Okay, and then we've got these fun little banner pieces at the bottom. So from our polka dots, I'm going to, you know, normally you'd layer that down first, but just to get them in the right positions, we'll put them on top for now. And from our orange, it's going to be this one. All right. I'm just going to stuff them underneath to give them kind of a general idea of where they're going to go. Hard to do one-handed. Okay. And then our scallop piece to hold our focal point shaker, or whatever you decide you want to make your focal point. Okay. I'm going to put this down so I can have 2 hands. Do our next sketch right here. All right, this is one of my favorite pieces. I love the juxtaposition of the corners and then the rounded edges. It's going to be fun, especially on a Halloween piece. I feel like our Halloween kits are both whimsical and that little bit of spooky. I love the way we can communicate with shapes, some of those same feelings. All right. Oh, and I forgot, our green piece goes underneath. About here, a little lower maybe. And then scalloped and stripes, followed by our hexagon piece. Which sketch is your favorite? If you can see them all over here on the left, do you have a favorite? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Which one do you think turned out the best? Oh, and I missed my hexagon. Okay, next. Do number 5 here. Nope, that's not the right paper. We want from the orange. Oh yeah, another one of our mystery cutouts that no one will know except for those of us watching now, and everyone else, it'll be a secret. Okay, and let's see, green here, followed by polka dots. See, I find that, when you're looking at the sketches in different colors, that by sticking with, stripes or polka dots, it really does help you get organized as you're getting towards the point where you're putting this all together. You can figure out where everything came from and where they go. If you make a lot of different choices, then you're going to have a little bit harder time keeping track. But still workable. You may have to write it down and give yourself a little bit of a cheat sheet to know what you need. Okay, 1919. Okay. I like these little banner pieces. I like them coming down from the hexagons too, almost like an award of some sort. Okay. All right. Card number 5. 2 more to go. And let's start. Let's see, what would be the bottom layer? That's stripes probably. Let's use this one for this card. I love how much extra texture you get out of the stitch marks in the background. It really elevates your basic plain white backdrop into something that just feels just richer, more like you want to touch it, just more like you spent a little more time and care on it as well. Plain white cardstock is totally fine, and I do use it all the time. But, oh, I think I mixed up. Yep, see, this one is supposed to have the wider scallops, and this one has the skinnier scallops because they get layered. Maybe you already caught that and told me that, but I'm not reading the comments. I need to do that. Okay, so those two get layered together. All right, and then stripes. That's part of the reason that I do recommend you go through and sort this out before you get started crafting, because you may glue something down and then realize later that you had something else you were supposed to do first, or you've got a die cut in the wrong spot or something like that. Okay. And then from our orange, tie our colors together here. All right, long sentiment. I have a fun long sentiment plan for that card. Okay, and then our final card with our final pieces. Straighten it up here. All right, polka dots. Green. And those are going to get layered on top of each other a little bit. I like the polka dots on top of the green. They aren't going to be completely butted up next to each other, because you want enough of that white showing, particularly at the bottom, if you're going to stamp your sentiment down there. Now, I'm not, because I used the backdrop dies, I'm not going to stamp it down there. These spots here that say to stamp directly on there, I'm actually going to cut out some extra banners for those spots later on, because it wouldn't work well to stamp right on that. But the foundation dies have many, many, many banner options that should fit whatever stamps you have in mind. Okay, so you can go back and customize as needed. All right, where is green? Here it is. Okay, our little fun pocket pieces up here. Great little spot to host some embellishments. Okay, and I did miss that we need to put this down too. Like I said, need my toothbrush to go put those out, but this is going to get tucked right in here when we actually make that card. And then from this one, let's see, our final banner pieces get assembled like this, and then tucked behind our scallop piece. And there is that. And oh, I missed this one. Where does this one go? Right here. Okay. Ta-da! Let me move them all here so you can see. So this is the general idea of the magic in a die cutting guide. There is our 7 cards from 6 pieces of pattern paper. And here's my vision of where I'm headed with all of these. This is my Creepy Crew set, and you can see that I've got them all planned out. The nice thing about the die guides is I do try very, very hard to go ahead and give you some variety in the sizes of your home bases here, so that as you work with a Queen & Company kit, the vast majority of the shapes or shakers, or even some of our great like endless word dies, will fit wonderfully on here. And you can see I didn't have too much trouble getting the 7 shapes in the Creepy Crew kit to fit really well within the sketches that are provided in this particular kit. And I didn't plan that ahead of time. I literally don't have the ability for my brain to work at that level of detail. Just getting the cutouts from the certain dies to all work together and create great sketches that I felt were balanced is hard enough. I wouldn't have the ability to go through and also try to make sure that it fit a particular kit. Too much work, not worth it, especially when by just having some variety in the shapes of your home bases, you can go ahead and quickly find one that works for the vast majority of shapes. Very little adjusting should be needed, particularly as I've made more of the die cutting guides. I think personally, my own thing is I think they get better with time. But here, isn't he cute? This is with the monster from Creepy Crew. I did pre-assemble him, so let's make his card real fast. So I'm going to go ahead and stack these out of the way. I'm not going to go through and assemble all of them right now. There is other fun things happening in our Facebook group. Mary Ann will be on with her live in a little while. So in order to save some time to actually chat with you a bit, let's go ahead and just make this one card right now. We'll call it good. So quick, we're going to go ahead and glue down our base shapes here on our card front. I'm using just some plain art glitter glue. I like that it's a little bit forgiving in that I don't have to, let's see, I might want to move that a little bit further over. Let me pull out my sketch so I can keep track of where I'm at. Yep, a little bit more this way. Doesn't have to be exactly like the sketch, but since I took the time to figure it all out, I might as well stick to it and not have to figure it out twice. Okay. Yeah, I like that liquid glue is a little bit more forgiving. I do use my tape runner a lot too, depends on what I'm doing, but with liquid glue, you usually get a minute or two to go ahead and adjust as needed, or pull it up real quick like you just saw me do. Wipe off a small spot, and then you can keep going. Okay, there is that base. And then I'm going to do something that I do a lot of, which is pull out my foam tape. Hold on just a second, like grab it. I buy huge amounts of foam tape because I use it so much. Here's my giant wheels of foam tape. And it's one of my favorite crafty tools. Flip my mic back on. I had to take it off to grab it because it's across the table from me here. And I'm going to grab a bunch of these and just pop this particular layer up a little bit. Should have been doing this all along, but now that we've got down to just one card, let me zoom in a little bit. Make it a little easier to see what I'm doing here. I like the extra dimension. And of course, if you're mailing something, you probably would not want to go for any extra layers of dimension. The shakers are already quite a bit, and kind of depending on your post office, some of them handle that well and do great, and others are much more particular, and you have to be a little more careful about the way you mail them. Personally, I use a website called Pirate Ship, and I mail them in small padded envelopes. And by using Pirate Ship to weigh them and pad them a little bit, it typically costs me, I want to say the last one I mailed was $1.75 to mail. And even though that's more than the cost of a regular stamp, it worked out well for me. Recipient got it just fine. And I didn't have to fight with my post office about whether it should go package rate or whatnot. Pirate Ship, you can just put in your dimensions, your weight, what type of package it is, and it will get a label for you to print the proper postage, and off you go. And I can even drop it. It's a small, very small padded envelope. I can even drop it right in my mailbox. I don't have to trudge off to the post office. Should we stamp the sentiment? I think we have time for that. Let me grab the stamps from the kit. Some of you asked how I store my kits. You can see this one's exploding now because I've got so much in it right now. But I do use these 6x6 craft iris boxes. And I like them because your paper pads generally fit along with your foam refills, depending on how the refills are shaped. And then you can see it's a mess because I was using it this morning, but I've got my papers in here. Here's the stamp set I was looking for. And I saved the die cut guides that are meant to help you assemble your shakers in there. And this one is full of embellishments and stuff like that. That's why it's all popped up kind of funny. But I keep each of the die sets. I used to keep a magnet sheet glued to the top lid, but the amount of dies in our kits grew by quite a bit over the years. So now I just use these tiny little craft bags, and I keep each shape's dies together so I can easily grab whatever shape I want. So that's how I store my kits. And if I take the time to organize this, it actually will shut. You can see, if you want to learn a little bit more about the background, sometimes when we are testing prototypes, I actually use my laser cutter to cut our shapes out of wood to see if, when we're doing our Q&A, our testing, right? So you can see even here, I have saved some of those wood shapes because they still make a great shaker, even cut out of wood. So some more behind the scenes of how this all works here. Some of our Q&A is done literally by laser cutting wood to make sure that everything lines up properly before we get everything done in foam. Depends on what we need. But let's go ahead and stamp. I'll show you how I stamp right now. Many of you have seen this before, but it is still beloved and I use it all the time. But this is my We Are Memory Keepers mini stamping platform. I have had a lot of stamping platforms over the years. I've used almost every one that has been made, and I still come back to this one, partially because the main stamping I do is sentiments. I don't do a lot of heavy stamping. If I did, I would probably have a very different stamping platform. But if the main type of stamping you do is stamping small things, small shapes, sentiments, this is amazing. Now, I did customize it to make it even more amazing. You can see in my platform, I have a small magnetic sheet, just the magnetic sheets you could buy it like at the hardware store. The same magnetic sheets I stick to bulletin boards to get my dies on the wall. And then a very, very thin sheet of craft foam, which has actually become even thinner over the years of using it, just to give myself a less slippery texture. You can also see I've got a few pieces of double-sided tape stuck here, just to give it a little bit of sticky tack, almost like a Cricut mat stickiness. But I've also got my magnets too, depending on what I'm doing. But I find that that double sticky tape isn't too sticky, and I can use it to kind of hold down my banner shape. And let's see, what sentiment did I want for this one? I wanted, oh yeah, monsters welcome, humans tolerated. I love that one. That feels like my house sometimes. Monsters everywhere. The good kind though. All right, so we'll pull that stamp off. This is how I stamp all my sentiments, because I can line them up, see what I'm doing, see how I want them to look. And then I like the up and down action of this particular stamping platform because it's just so forgiving and so easy to change or to restamp and ink over and over again if necessary. Let's see, what color should we do? Probably, I don't know. What do you think? Give me a color choice. What color should I do here? Should we do an orange or should we stick with the aqua, minty aqua? Or maybe we should just do plain black. I don't know. Maybe we'll just do plain black for now. It is Halloween after all. Normally I like to color coordinate my sentiments, but for Halloween, we'll just go classic Versamark black. ink that up. Sorry, I did that off camera. I forgot I zoomed in. There we go. And then the up-down action, just super easy. And I'm going to go get humans a little bit more because it's just not quite as dark as I would like it to be on that side. And a second wipe, and we're all set. Here's another thing that I do. I use my Queen & Company spray bottles, and I spray, I'm gonna do this off camera so I don't spray my project, but I spray down my Queen & Company chamois, and then I don't have to run off to the sink to get it wet or anything like that, because I don't have a sink in my craft room. I'm just in some office space in my house. But it's nice not to need to do that, and I'll just give my little stamps a little bit of a wipe down, and all done. So that is how I do my stamping. And that just pops right off there. All right, we'll set that aside for later. Okay, one last time. I've been on a long time. For those of you that are still interested and maybe popped on recently, this is where you can find the die cutting guide in our royalty group. If you are a member, you can go there. At the top of the list, you will find our royalty group in files. And at the top of the list is that die cutting guide. All right, now to finish this off, like I said, I like foam tape and I use it a lot. We're going to keep using that for a bit just to give lots of fun dimension here. These cards, like I told you earlier, are going to go to my son's Special Olympics team as they get ready for their state swim meet. And so they are going to get hand delivered so I can be as dimensional as I like and not have to worry too much about how that ends up turning out. Okay, so let me get my other pieces on here so I can see how they would all come together. And I might change up a little bit the order of how these look. Let's see. Maybe something like this. Make it look right. Okay. There's my glue. We'll get this put on. And then I know one of the questions people asked wasn't just about how I store things, but also like inks. What kind of inks do I like? How do I choose them? I tend to use only small little ink spots for the most part. You saw I have a big Versamark pad, but that's about, there's only a handful of large pads that I own. I like to buy the entire range in ink spots of a certain brand's inks. And so, like, for example, I have Lawn Fawn. I have some My Favorite Things. And this one I'm going to use a foam tape on, so it'll match the height of my sentiment. I also have, let's see, what brand is this one up here? I have a drawer full of Catherine Pooler. I couldn't remember her name for a minute. Catherine Pooler minis. They're a little bigger than the 1-inch ink spots, but I do have those as well, which I like. Those might be some of my favorites. But I also just have some really cheap, let me move that foam tape back just a little bit. Some really cheap inks I think I got from like Joann's Fabric in like 2004 that actually are still going strong, some of my dye inks. So that one there, then this here. And those things are still going strong, some of them. Some of them did eventually dry up, but it's surprising how some of my cheaper inks, dye inks especially, have really just hung in there over the years. So it's hard to, I feel like inks are hit and miss. Do you guys have a favorite brand or favorite type you like to use? Okay, you're looking very cute. Let's get them glued down. You want to learn another tip that I use when I'm assembling shakers with faces? You can see in most of the artwork that I put a little white speck in their eyes in order to give their eyes some personality and dimension. But I used to try to use a white gel pen for that, and I finally just had to give up because they kept drying out on me and I would get so frustrated. So Marianne and I were actually just discussing this just the other day. This is my tip for white eyes, white specks in your eyes of your little cute characters. This is some plain craft acrylic paint, and this is what I do. So I've already done it on this, but here, I'll grab a piece of black paper and I'll show you. If this was my little eyeball, I would take my white craft paint. I was telling Marianne, I don't even bother, you can see I'm messy, don't even bother squirting some out. I just take my little stylus, and you can kind of see how small it is. It's pretty small. I don't know if it'll focus. Pretty small. And I literally, sorry, I'm bumping my camera all over. I literally just take it and dip it in the paint that is in that little stopper. I take it and I just put it on my eyeball and I dot it. And you get a perfect little white, little round dot of paint on the spot that you need. And it doesn't dry out. I mean, this bottle of paint's probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old. Going plenty strong, right? I'm a messy crafter. I don't mind getting messy. Wipe my paint off. And then I've got my little white dots in the eyeballs of my monsters and things. And they look really good. They don't actually look kind of faded like some of the white gel pens can look. And some of my gel pens start strong, but they just don't stay strong. Let's get some bling on this guy. But that's why I started moving to the white craft paint. I had that on hand. I had the stylus on hand one day when I was frustrated with dried up white pens. Oh, I've got some bling embellishments here, including my favorites, pinwheels, some stars. Let's see what would look good on this guy. Let's do some pinwheels. A lot of fun. Do one over here. Let's do one right here. Let's grab a yellow one too. Get that one right in here. And then maybe some of these gray stars too to kind of, I like, you may have noticed if you've seen my stuff, I like embellishment clusters. I tend to put little groups of things together to help move your eye across the page and help things seem more balanced. Let's see, I'm going to grab a little white one. Put it up there. And yeah, that's pretty cute. I might add more bling later, but that's the general idea. All done. Okay. So that's the need some water now. Too much talking. But that's the idea behind your die guides. Is that if you sit down with one and a kit and a pattern paper pad, you can knock out 7 truly fabulous cards in just a morning, maybe a couple of hours if you're quick about it. If you pre-assemble your shakers, like many people do when they first get their kits, you'll be even further along in the process of ready to roll. If you get a kit, like, I don't know what I want to make exactly, but if you just pre-assemble some shakers and then keep them with your kits, then you'll be all set and ready to go as soon as you do get the bug to go ahead and try a die guide. And if you haven't tried one before, I very much suggest that you do. They're a lot of fun. Okay. Final housekeeping item before I just kind of sit down and just talk for a bit and share some stuff from my craft room. And that is our sneak peek. So last night Donna showed you Mrs. Claus, right? Well, here's her Mr. What do you guys think? There's a couple of the sentiments that are also in the stamp set there. So Mr. Claus, Santa Claus, St. Nicholas maybe. He's got the more traditional outfit on from a little bit more of an olden age, perhaps not the traditional suit, coat, and pants, but the robe look here to go along with the way Mrs. Claus looks. And they are sized to go together. They'll look adorable together on a card. Mrs. Claus that you saw last night, I did check after I designed her to see if some of the baking supplies from last year's Christmas kit, she could hold in her hand. She could hold some of those cookies and some of the sentiments from last year's Christmas baking kit. Yes, they will work beautifully. I did test that. So some very fun things coming. Hopefully in about a month or so. I'm not sure. We have to ask Wendy how things are coming, but this will be our final Christmas release of the year. And Marianne has one more shape to show you. There are 6 shapes in that kit. And you've seen one from Donna last night. You've seen one from me today. Marianne has one more, so make sure and catch her live as well. And then I'm going to pull my mini iPad a little closer, and I'm going to go back to my desk. And let's chat about craft rooms and crafting in general, or if you want to ask me about work, you have my full attention for a little bit. Oh, and I want to show you how I create sketches too. That is one more thing coming. So let me transition back over to my other camera. Okay, back in my craft room camera. Let's see here. I have to move my cutter because it's hitting my chair. It's a good sized room, but boy, there is still plenty Plenty of stuff in it everywhere. Okay. Questions. What do you want to know? Let's see. Is it Rudolph, Cheryl? You'll have to wait and watch Marianne's live. No secrets coming out of me. Angela, you think I have a glorious classroom? Well, it's in pretty good shape. It's definitely a working room, though. I know some designers have this fabulous ready for YouTube and Instagram look. Mine is very much a working room. So let's see. How do I store my stamps? Okay, you want to see that? Let me grab my iPad here. That's my second camera. Let's go see if I can actually make this work and show you way more than you need to know about my craft room. All right, no more disconnecting things. Too much trouble. Let me go back to showing you things that make sense. All right. Everybody still there? Sorry, is everybody dizzy now? Okay. I have a whole stack of these bins that I can keep more dyes in. And let me pull those out and I'll bring them over. And that way we won't unplug things. There we go. Okay. Audio back, right? Okay, hopefully. Okay, whew, sorry. So here we go. Here's how I store dyes now that my wall space is running low. This is a set of stacking trays I bought on Amazon. I put my magnet sheets in there, and there's like a dozen, I think there's 10 shelves, and I can continue to grow how I store some of my dyes there. Whew, sorry. Everyone's probably ready to leave now. Okay, there's that. Let me show you how I create sketches. I'm ready to show you that without causing too much trouble. Okay. These are generic Cricut mats that I bought on Amazon very cheaply because they're not name brand, but they serve their purpose. And I went through with all of the foundation dyes and I cut them all out, every single one of them. And they just live on their little mats and they're sorted by shape. On the walls where I keep my dyes, I sort them by number. To make it much easier to find them. But by this way of storing the cutouts, I can sort them by shape. And so when I'm making new sketches for each of the monthly contests, which if you haven't joined, by the way, you absolutely should. We randomly choose winners. It's just about having fun and getting creative. So we hope you will join those. We do a new one every single month. And you can use any of our previously numbered sketches. And you can see I keep the numbers of which foundation die set they come with here, so I can easily grab the pieces I'm interested in using, arrange them into a sketch form, and then I have what number the set came from, so I can sketch them out. So that's how that works. And you can see we have a lot of shapes in our foundation dyes, but I have them all cut out. And because the Cricut mats, you know, are somewhat sticky, I can pull them, use them, stick them back down, find them again later, reuse them. But I love having them all arranged by size too, so I can compare from set to set exactly how they would look next to each other. So that is how I design sketches. All right. Any other questions I should address before we go? Let's see. I see I printed out some of your comments. Static. Okay, Lisa asked about static. Remember the little bottles I showed you before full of water? Well, if I have a piece of acetate, which I don't have happen right in front of me, suppose this was a piece of acetate I was about to stick down, you know, onto my shaker, I would take this little spray bottle, and I'm in humid Houston, so it's not as difficult to deal with static as some places, but in the winter we do deal with it quite a bit. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to just give it a little mist in the air, and then I'm going to wave this through the mist, just enough for it to pick up a little bit of that water. It's a very fine misting spray bottle, but that's how I tame static. And so when I go to stick that down now on top of my little shaker, those little pieces are not going to jump out all over me. I have also some static taming tools. They can work from time to time depending on what's going on, but this is my favorite. I do also keep dryer sheets handy. I can wipe the inside of my card sometimes with that. But ever since I started doing this, I rarely pull these out. This would be more like if I have tiny little shaker bits, especially ones with corners, like star sequence or something that might get stuck in the stickiness of the foam right as it meets the acetate. I'll take this and go around the edges, and that'll keep the stars or little shapes from sticking. But ever since doing this, I really don't use these items as much, if ever, anymore. But I still keep them handy just in case, right? Okay, good question about static. All right. We talked about inks. We talked about storing dyes. How do I decide what should be the next kit? Ooh, that's a good question. If you are doing some of our contests today, our giveaways for gift cards, you've seen those posted in the royalty page. One of them asks, you know, what would you like to see in terms of kits in 2024? We absolutely love to hear what you guys are requesting, and we totally take those into account when we are designing. Wendy is full of wonderful ideas. A lot of it is kind of like what I said about how I create foundation dyes, is what would I like to use? And like, you know, you may have noticed I like monsters. Those things that I like show up a lot in the kit. So we're hoping that if I like it or if Wendy likes it, that you will too. Okay, Let's see, how many mats did I use for my foundation pieces? Let's count them, Karen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Currently 10, but they're pretty full. So I would probably, they came in sets, I think, of 8. So I still have 4 more down there not being used, but we'll probably get there eventually. Okay, Jill, you said you'd really love jungle or zoo or flamingo. Jill, I think you're going to like 2024. Going to be a great year if you like animals. So, but yes, keep sending us your suggestions. Answer those questions for challenges. Tell us what you'd like to see, because it's a high chance that if you're not alone, if you're not the only one who wants some wild random shape, that it'll come up in a kit at some point. Okay, another question from earlier. How do you store your toppings? Oh, wow. Maybe you saw earlier, I'm not going to disconnect. I promise I'm not going to disconnect this time. Maybe you saw earlier on my shelf that next to storing my kits, I have my topping storage. Okay, and that's over here. These are also from Amazon. They are meant for diamond dots, but I have them organized by color. And here, I'll take one down. We'll take a look at it. Here's purple, one of the purples. I put you guys back up overhead. Here's purple, and these are individual little boxes that I store my toppings in. I like that they're individual because I can take them out and hold them individually instead of in rows. They did come from Amazon. I don't know what brand. I've had them for quite a while. I bought a big bunch of them when they went on clearance during 2020. But they are individual, about 1 inch by 1 inch square boxes of toppings. And yeah, I have a lot of toppings, but I use them a lot too. So it's fun to have so many variety of choices. Usually in the colors, I have 2 boxes. One box has like shaped toppings, and the other has all of the different, like more roundish or non-themed. You can see here, I've got everything from candies to butterflies to flowers, snowflakes, Queen and Company crowns. So in general, that's kind of how I store my bling. Now, bling that comes in kits tends to stay with the kits. I like to have them handy when I grab a kit that they're in there. But that is how I store most of my other toppings. So I leave them in the pouches they come in for a while. Usually they move into this after I've used them for other projects. This is more like what's left over after I've used a bunch. Not all of it is stored by color. Some of it are more of our fusion mixes, have different bling boxes. So like these are some of the fun ones we came out with this summer, and they're just more individual and they're not super well organized. They're just in here together. So if it didn't have like a, this one probably could move over to the yellows or greens, but the rest of these were a multicolored thing, or like this is left over from something that I made, a card I made, and I had some leftover bling, and I just threw it all in there to keep track of my own custom mixes, because I have lots of my own custom mixes too. Okay, that's bling. Any other questions? Let's see. Tic Tac containers. Yep, Tic Tac containers work well too. I save some of those from time to time too. All right. How do you keep your work area clutter free? Katrina asked me that and I laughed. Can you see my work area? This is what it normally looks like. It is usually full of craziness, but I do tend to work on a kit, or like, for example, we released many products for World Card Making Day. I'll go through and use all those products, and then I will clean up. Everything has a place, so that is partly what's helpful. Oh, let's talk about bling storage. Okay, I promise I'm not going to disconnect my audio again, but the bling books have my older stuff, my more current stuff. Okay. These are like jewelry organizers. You see those on the wall? I'm not going to step over there because I'm going to disconnect, but all of my various recent bling that I'm using that's more or less available on the website is in these little makeup organizers or jewelry organizers, and I keep them handy where I can reach. You could probably tell from looking at my craft room, I'm a very visual person, and so I need to be able to see it or I'll forget that I have it. You can see my old topping bottles are there too for the same reason. Small mini bling books that we need to convince Wendy to bring back again. So that is bling storage for me, for the stuff that is current and available and what I'm typically using. All right, let's see. You find that some tends to stick in the Tic Tac containers. You do have to worry about what kind of plastic is used for Fimo shapes. The shapes that are made from clay, they are made of a type of plastic and they can fuse to other types of plastic. I find that if you are trying to look for bling storage, or excuse me, topping storage that is like more of that milky white color instead of perfectly clear, it tends to work much, much better. I've not had problems with things sticking or not doing well. Like for example, here it's a white, some white that has the clay toppings in it. And you can see that they are not stuck at all. They do really well in these milky white containers. I wish they had like a recycling number on the bottom that I could tell you, but it doesn't. But milky white, not perfectly crystal clear. I've not had a problem with that type of storage sticking. So I know what is the measurements on this. My craft mat says these are approximately 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5 inches, give or take, by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches. So those are those. Show the die storage tray again. Can I do that, Linda, without disconnecting you all? I'll try. Let's see. I like that this storage tray can hold a lot of dies in a small amount of space. I told you I'm a visual crafter, so I'm still getting used to this idea though. Okay. This is the die storage box. If I can aim you at the front of it. See how it has all these different shelves? There is my endless frames. I used to have those on the wall, but they take up a lot of space. So I added them to one of the drawers. Most of the drawers are empty because this is a fairly new thing for me. But here's that drawer that I showed you earlier with the new flower foundations and some of our brand new background dies in it. And that's how that goes. So this one, I think the brand name on this one is Durable. And it's what, 10 shells? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, yeah, 10 shells. So I can store an awful lot of dies in this thing. Although it probably would be heavy by the time I get it full. But it lives on one of my craft tables. It has some shelves underneath it and it stays down there. So I can easily get to it even though I can't quite always see it. All right. You want to see something else kind of fun? Don't tell Wendy. One of the things we're trying to work on to come soon would be a new addition to the Endless. Let me stop distracting you by double showing you things. We want to do some fun things with Endless. So we're working on that and hoping to have that come out very, very soon. So, shh, I didn't show you that. Okay. Any other questions before I get ready to go? The name of the gray storage, I don't know the name of it. It's by Durable. Paper trays. They're paper trays from Amazon. Okay. Can you explain what you store in the multi-case organizer where you had the sports kit? Those are all my shape shakers as well as shaped card kits. So anything that's too small to take up one of these 6x6 iris cases goes in those smaller ones. How do you store your 6x6 paper pads? Honestly, mine are almost all with a kit. I do have a small drawer that I throw some of the ones in that I haven't cut into yet, but I like the 6x6 paper pad because they also fit in the 6x6 storage cases. So you can see most of mine have a case or a paper pad in the bottom of the case. Let's see. I should do more of these videos. Well, maybe. I feel like I don't have as much to tell you as I would wish. I've given away most of my good secrets so far. I can show you one more secret. It's not really a secret though, because you've seen it on the website probably. But I have a close-up of the Christmas papers if you want to see those. I know you've seen the pad, the cover already, but the Christmas papers are coming out soon with the kit that I gave the sneak peek for. It has a very pretty color palette, Christmassy, and yet a little bit of winter kind of in there. So these are prototypes. You can see that they are not the official papers. They're not printed out on heavyweight paper. They're thin paper. They're not double-sided. These are just prototypes. But here is what's coming for the Christmas kit. And it is absolutely going to be worth the wait. Probably one of my favorite Christmas kits we have ever done. Get on the notification list for when it comes out in November. Hopefully November. Hopefully, I'm not sure exactly what we're up against in terms of deadlines, but coming up, it'll be our final Christmas release of the year. We've had several, including one of my favorites, The Endless Christmas. But these are the papers. This is one of my favorites. It's a new pattern that we haven't done before. So pretty colors, pretty feel of winter. I believe the name of this kit is going to be, oh boy, what did we name it? I think it was, can't remember. Too many things going on in my brain today. Something about Christmas Town or something like that. Maybe one of you knows, because it says it on the paper pad, but it's been too long since I had to think about it. Do we have Queen & Company shirts on sale? Boy, we used to. My t-shirt's kind of old though. I'll have to ask Wendy if we do or not. I know we did, but that could be a fun thing to add. Help me, you guys. I want to convince Wendy that we need to do an online actual class, one where we would create some of the kits ahead of time and then mail them to you at some point. Cheryl, you never need a notification because you're always stocking. I love that. Thank you. I'm glad you like the papers, Joanne. Any hint on the new fall items? Only that I didn't design them. We have something exciting coming up, a partnership that we are not quite ready to announce, but will be soon. So fall things coming, but I didn't design them. We're going to try to branch out because I can't, I do a lot of things. I wear a lot of hats here at Queen & Company. Can't do it all. And so we are excited to be able to partner with a new designer. So a teaser on that. Yes, see, class is fun, right? Would you guys do it? Ooh, advent calendar. That's a cute idea, Kathy. I would love a ginger class. Okay, let's see here if I can turn camera around. I'm going to move this camera so that you can see me again. My iPad maybe gave up the ghost. The batteries probably did. Let's see. Turn this camera around. There we are. There we are. There's me in my craft room. Well, guys, thank you so much for being with me today. We'll have to do another Queen & Company answer session again, Q&A session again. Okay, but yeah, visual class. Something like that maybe in 2024. We'll see. Some of it comes down to supply chain issues, but I would love to do it. And then we can have a class where we can maybe get us all on Zoom and we can talk to each other. I know how much it is fun to have friends, crafty friends. I love mine. They're important to me. Can you guys see some of the cute things on my shelf that have been given to us by our Queen & Company fun friends? I've got a calendar. I've got, where's my calendar? There's my calendar. I've got a water bottle. I've got my cute little Queen Bee toll painting sign. I've got all kinds of fun stuff. Amazing, wonderful customers treat us and spoil us so much. So anyways, thank you for joining me today. Everyone have a lovely World Card Making Day. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Create lots of fun things. Join the card contest. Check out the new products. Join Marianne. And make sure if you want to catch up on any of the videos you missed, they're available. We have a blog post with links to that. Download your die cutting guide and have a wonderful World Card Making Day. Happy crafting, everybody. Bye-bye. To stop the feed.